Intolerance is not just a social or moral flaw, it is a deep-seated barrier that halts the progress of both individuals and entire societies. It reflects our inclination to place ourselves above others instead of seeking shared paths for growth and coexistence. From the very beginning of this reflection, the author wants to draw your attention to two key traits of intolerance that define its harmful impact on us and our environment. The first trait, intolerance, is a manifestation of ignorance, but not the kind we typically imagine. It's not merely a lack of education in specific fields, but rather a profound psychological block that prevents us from moving beyond our limited beliefs. It closes our minds to new ideas and alternative perspectives. It divides societies, breeds hostility and violence, and delays progress. Its effects are felt not only on a societal level but by each individual, as intolerance traps us within our own fears and stereotypes. The second trait, intolerance, is a force capable of dismantling even the most powerful institutions. It seeps into religion, politics, and culture, tearing them apart from within. Every rupture in these spheres is born of intolerance, when people cannot accept differing views, beliefs, or ideologies. Here lies the paradox. It is through this very intolerance that we lose the true potential of these institutions, their ability to unite and serve the good of humanity. These two traits are deeply intertwined with how intolerance manifests in real life. If we are unable to overcome our personal limitations and biases, not only society but we ourselves lose the opportunity to grow. When we let intolerance guide our actions, we forfeit the chance to see the world through others' eyes, to understand diverse viewpoints, and to deepen our own awareness. But where does this intolerance take its most destructive form? It can emerge in the smallest moments of daily life, in our reactions to others' beliefs, cultural practices, or any kind of difference that challenges our comfort zones. Often, intolerance hides behind the mask of social or cultural norms. Even those who consider themselves tolerant may discover intense reactions to seemingly minor differences, just like the author did upon encountering a young man wearing a Knights of Columbus badge. That moment wasn't just a random event. It was an illustration of how quickly and subtly intolerance can surface, even in what we perceive as insignificant details. Our reactions to foreign symbols, no matter how harmless, often stem not from objective facts but from subconscious biases and inherited stereotypes. One clear example of how intolerance led directly to failure is the story of American businessman Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company. Though he became a symbol of the Industrial Revolution and transformed the auto industry, his personal prejudices had serious negative consequences. In the mid-1920s, Henry Ford gained notoriety for his anti-Semitic views. He was one of the most active promoters of anti-Semitic ideas in the United States, publishing a series of articles in his newspaper, The Dearborn Independent, that spread harmful stereotypes about Jewish people. He even endorsed the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a forged document falsely claiming that Jews were conspiring to take over the world. These actions sparked a wave of backlash. Despite his immense influence and business success at the time, his public anti-Semitism led many Jewish organizations and businesses to boycott Ford products. He was eventually forced to issue a public apology. His intolerance not only tarnished his reputation, but also threatened the stability of his company, leading to reduced sales and diminished trust among customers and employees. In the end, despite all his industrial accomplishments, Ford's personal intolerance caused significant harm to his image and brand. This shows how deeply held prejudices can have destructive consequences, even for those who achieve great success. What happens when we face moments like this? They signal an opportunity to look inward and ask, why did I react this way? What experiences or influences in my life led to this instant judgment? Such questions open the door to self-awareness and reveal how our perspectives are shaped not only by experience, but by upbringing and environment. Here lies a crucial realization. We are all, to a large extent, products of our upbringing and social surroundings. This insight doesn't just help us understand ourselves, it helps us understand society. How often do we dismiss others' beliefs as wrong or irrelevant, simply because we were never taught to consider different viewpoints. How often do we struggle to see through another's lens because our worldview is shaped entirely by the norms of our environment? These questions invite us toward deeper understanding. They also compel us to act. If we aim to overcome intolerance, we must start with ourselves, questioning our assumptions, exploring new ideas, and learning to embrace diversity as a natural and necessary part of our world. It's not enough to simply acknowledge the existence of intolerance. We must go deeper and ask why we so often judge others through the lens of our own beliefs. Even those who see themselves as open-minded may still harbor subconscious biases. The answer lies in recognizing that we are all shaped by our social context. Much of what we consider right, normal, or just is inherited rather than consciously chosen. And that leads to a profound discovery. Our political, religious, and even economic beliefs are often not the result of deep reasoning, but of the environments we grew up in. Our families, schools, communities, and even social media platforms. We absorb these worldviews without questioning whether they truly reflect our inner selves. The author had this realization after reflecting on his reaction to the Knights of Columbus badge. It became clear most of our beliefs aren't shaped by logic, but by our surroundings. We may think of ourselves as independent thinkers, but we are often carriers of social patterns that limit us. We often fail to recognize how deeply these structures influence us, not only in trivial matters, but in the critical choices that define our lives. Our political opinions, religious affiliations, and economic mindsets are largely inherited, not developed. So what can we do when we confront these internal barriers and realize that much of our worldview isn't truly ours? Here is where personal responsibility comes in. We each have the power to reevaluate our beliefs, to challenge the assumptions that create prejudice. This doesn't mean abandoning our principles, but allowing them to evolve. It takes courage and strength to step beyond the familiar and see ourselves, and the world, anew. This is a path of growth and transformation. Every new idea we accept, every different perspective we try to understand, brings us closer to harmony and wisdom. True openness allows us to contribute meaningfully to a more compassionate, thoughtful society, not just intellectually, but morally and spiritually. However, change is not easy. Even when we understand the need for it, it's difficult to leave the comfort of familiar beliefs. Changing our worldview can be unsettling. It challenges not only our opinions, but our emotional sense of security. But real development lies in that discomfort, in the willingness to step out of our comfort zones. These inner barriers are not insurmountable. They are habits that can be changed with time, patience, and conscious effort. But the shift must go beyond beliefs. It must change how we think, how we perceive others. We must learn not only to see our own truths, but also to recognize and respect the truths of others. This requires not just openness, but active listening. Listening not only to words, but to emotions, experiences, and pain. Listening not to debate, but to understand. There is wisdom in accepting others' beliefs not from a standpoint of right or wrong, but from one of shared humanity. Understanding that everyone has a right to their view, even if it differs from ours. While we won't always agree, we can show tolerance in how we relate to others. Step by step, we can become people who don't just tolerate differences, but value them. Every new idea enriches our worldview, helping us expand our understanding and move closer to true harmony. Yet, overcoming intolerance at the individual level is only part of the task. Once we change ourselves, we can begin to influence our environment. Only when each of us begins practicing openness and tolerance can society as a whole become more just and harmonious. We will create a world where diversity is seen as strength, not weakness, and where everyone can share their voice without fear of rejection or judgment. And that is the ultimate goal. Not just to defeat intolerance, but to build a society that values the richness of different perspectives. In doing so, we move forward as a collective humanity, reaching new heights of growth, where every person is a vital, equal part of the larger whole. But can we truly achieve such an ideal? Can society as a whole change when so many cultural and political forces continue to uphold old divisions? The answer is complex, but it lies in our capacity for self-awareness and our willingness to act. To change the world, we must begin with ourselves. We may not control every force around us, but we can choose how we respond, how we treat others, how we engage with difference. That is our responsibility, and that is the first real step toward lasting transformation.